Welcome to Jilly G's Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you my homemade gluten-free flour tortillas. What we're going to do first is I have white rice flour. Again, Bob's Red Mill is my preference. So there's 1 cup of white rice flour, 1 cup of brown rice flour, and then 2 cups of this tapioca flour, also known as tapioca starch. I would think that you could substitute potato starch or even corn starch for this, but I've just always used the tapioca. Everything room temperature. I usually keep all of this stuff in the fridge, but I'll take it out ahead of time so it comes to room temperature before we use it. And my butter has been sitting out. My kitchen's a little cold, so it's a little firmer, but we're going to be using our hands to mix it all in. As you can see, I've cut it up to make it a little easier for a head start. You can also use this shortening instead of butter or even lard. Then we need 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of salt, 4 teaspoons of xanthan gum. And there's 4. 1.5 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of honey, but I want to mix in the butter before I mix in the honey. If you don't want to use honey in this recipe, you can substitute 2 tablespoons of sugar instead of honey. You could use like a pastry blender or even a fork, I'd imagine, or even a food processor. I've always just done this with my hands. So that's pretty well mixed together. Again, 4 tablespoons of butter. I cut it up. It is at room temperature. And then we're just going to mix it in with our fingers. So you just want to keep, I just mash it between my hands like this. If your hands are super warm, the butter might melt. Okay, so we've got all of our butter mixed in. You just want to make sure that there's no big lumps in there. You want it to look like this. And so, and you can feel the butter in there, but they're not really big chunks. It is a little bit sticky, and it will get stickier with the xanthan gum once we add the liquid. But now that you've got that all mixed in, we are going to start adding the water. And once I get a little bit of the water mixed in, I'll mix in the honey. You want to just mix that around. It's not going to be a super wet dough. I'm just going to mix it with my hands a little bit. But it is coming together nicely. And I'm actually going to add in the honey now as well. And then the rest of the water. Okay. And the honey will make this extra sticky. And it may not look like it will come together, but it will. You want to make sure you have no dry pockets at the bottom. And just keep mixing till everything is well incorporated. I think I'm just going to do this. And I'm not worried about the surface being floured yet because there's a lot of flour that's not mixed in yet. Just making a bigger mess. We'll come together. Just stick with it. I never made regular flour tortillas. I've only ever made gluten-free tortillas, so I don't even know how regular tortillas are supposed to work, but these work. Now we are going to roll these into balls. I have a tortilla press that I use. It doesn't get them as thin as you might want, and so I'll use that first to get the basic shape and thickness, and then roll them out a little bit more with my rolling pin. And so I just break off a small-ish handful, however big you want. You know, if you like bigger tortillas, but I try to make them fairly the same size. You can just go one at a time, but I find it easier if I just get them all into balls first and then just kind of assembly line it with the tortilla press. And I'm not too worried if it's sticky right now because we are going to use extra flour to dust the tortilla press or the surface that you're going to roll them out on. If you have a scale, you could weigh them to be more exactly the same size, but I'm not worried about it. And last one, we're going to have a quick little cleanup, and then I'll show you how to roll them out and get them cooked. So now I am ready to roll out our tortillas or press out. I have parchment paper here to put them on once they're ready, just to put them there. I have this tortilla press. I think it's about maybe a 6 or an 8 inch, I don't really know, but I always put it on a towel. It marks up the counter, but it also gives it kind of a sturdier, non-slippy surface. And then I also wrap parchment paper around the base of it and then anchor it underneath, just so it doesn't stick even more. And then less flour too. And then I have a little piece that I put on top. To make it not sticky, I do use white rice flour. I used to use brown rice flour, and then I had run out and used white rice, and it's actually a softer tortilla. And so I've done white rice ever since. So we're just gonna take a ball, and then I usually just kind of rub it around in the flour a little bit. I know it seems kind of like a pain, but it's what I found works. It is kind of small. I'm gonna roll them out a little bit bigger, but just to get the basic shape, and then just keep going. Okay, and that's our last one that we've pressed out. I've got them all lined up right here, and I'm just gonna clean this stuff up a little bit, and then I'm gonna roll those a little bit flatter, then we'll cook them. You can get your paper to not roll up. So I'm just going to roll these out a little bit thinner, or if you like them this way, that's fine too. They won't get that much bigger, but they will get a little bit thinner and cook a little faster. And they don't really stick together very much. So basic, you know, I mean, they're not super thick, but these are a little bit thinner. You see it's a pretty nice dough. And some of my tortillas are a little smaller than others, but it's okay. So that looks pretty good, and I'm just gonna keep going with the rest of these. For an assembly line, if you're gonna have all the stuff out, you might as well just do as many as you can, because you're gonna be doing it anyways. And it doesn't take that much longer to do more batches. Everything's out making a mess already. So I usually just do as much as I can at one time, although this is a smaller batch. And they freeze so well. I usually don't have them last very long, but it is nice to be able to stick them in the freezer. And really all you need to do is just take them out and, you know, let them come to room temperature and you're ready to go. So we have our tortillas all rolled out, a little bit thinner, ready to go in the pan. I have my dry skillet here, about medium high. I'll turn it down once things get going. I just want it to get hot. If there is any excess flour, you can just brush it off. There isn't a lot, but it will burn in the pan, so periodically we'll dump out the pan and wipe it out. I should be able to fit 2 or 3 depending on the size. And once you put them in the pan, I'll bring you in for a closer look, but once you get them in the pan, you want to just leave them to sit there until they start to form bubbles. So these are just heating up. Pan is pretty warm. We're just waiting for the bubbles to form. And if any really large bubbles form, you can just kind of pop them with a fork. You can see some of these are starting to get bubbles. Once the pan gets hot, it goes a little faster. Now we'll just let the other side cook. As you can see, last 2 are going in the pan. I've got 26 here out of a double batch. Of course, you could make them any size that you want them to be. I'll show you while those are cooking. Some of them did get some big bubbles that I kind of popped, but not super flexible, but enough to be a little taco or breakfast burrito, whatever you want. But this is what they look like. Pretty good. These freeze really well. Once they're all cooled off, I just stack them just like this. These all should fit in a Ziploc bag and keep them in the fridge or the freezer. They last quite a while in the freezer and they hold up really well. And you just bring them back to room temperature before you use them. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment if you tried this or if you have any requests. We'll see you on the next one.